Okay.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm Ben from Universal Audio, and welcome back to another Office Hours Q&A Monday fun. Well, if you couldn't tell, wait, let me make this easy to Nope, none of this is easy to understand. We're gonna show you how to hook up the vocoder from SoftTube in real time, because it's so much fun to do. All right, I'm going to stop messing around. Here we go. How you guys doing today?
Doing good, Ben. How are you?
Doing great.
Oh, man, I'm doing good. There we go. There we go. All right, now we're back to normal voice.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Well done. Well done, Ben.
The vocoder is so much fun. And so, anyone who's watched all of the Office Hours, which I know Danielle has, I know a few of you folks have been here for a lot of them. We've kind of shown this in the past. I tried to hook it up one time of coming through the vocoder in real time, and I know a couple other people have tried experimenting with this, and there's some little bit of weirdness around getting MIDI and real time vocoding all happening. So we have figured out the solution. It's just a touch of a workaround, a Scotia working around, but once you get it hooked up, you're gonna be in vocoder heaven.
Hopefully Missions is hanging around, because he'll be interested in this for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Before we jump in, how's everybody's weekends?
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Nice. Get
How
some
about
music.
you?
Pretty decent. Been working a lot on automating my home, making the smart home of the Lindells.
Monster house.
The monster house. Yeah, exactly. making it open and shut its own blinds and turn its lights off on all by itself. Oh, Missions is here. Nice.
Hey.
Nice. Hopefully everybody, all you guys watching had a great weekend as well. Got some time in Luna making music. So yeah, but let's just dive into it. Let me share my screen here, guys, and I'll take you through how to get the SoftTube vocoder all hooked up. So let's see. I'm just going to double hear myself, or you guys will double hear me too if I unmute this without it all activated. All right. So let me catch you up on what the setup is so far. So this is my microphone that you guys are hearing, and we're coming through a Unison preamp. Through some record effects, just my normal voiceover chain. And then we get down here to this insert section. And so here I've got the vocoder currently bypassed, so that you don't have to hear me constantly through the vocoder. And then just follow that up with an LA2A for a little bit more gain and compression after the fact. Now, where we went wrong last time we tried to hook this up is thinking, inserting the plugin here inside of Luna, and then creating an instrument track, and then setting the MIDI out of that track to vocoder. Now, one thing you may notice is that when you go to MIDI out, over here in my assignment, you see all my MIDI outputs, all my tracks that have MIDI assignable stuff, but you don't see the vocoder track. That's because this is currently in ARM mode, and when it's in ARM, Luna, because it isn't able to provide this as a low latency path at the moment, MIDI from this track to this track, it's not able to do that and guarantee the low latency experience. Just like with AU plugins, it's not showing up here as a valid selection for my MIDI. this is the issue that we had with last time. I think that we tried to set this up. So the workaround, pretty simple. First, you're going to just remove the vocoder from Luna, because what we're going to do is we're going to use console to do the MIDI and the vocodering. And what's slick about this is that it still reflects it over in Luna. So all I have to do is set up my MIDI input, go to settings, click over here to MIDI, select a device, make sure it's the keyboard that you want to be controlling the vocoder. So this is the essential part. Make sure this MIDI is set up and selected. And then instead of going back to Luna and inserting the vocoder, what we're going to do is we're actually going to do it here inside of console. So I'm going to hit plus, special effect processing.
And you'll
coder.
notice, be careful where you do it. Like you'll notice that Ben is doing it above his LA2 because technically speaking, that is the first slot in the monitor inserts.
Yeah.
So, that's why whenever Luna's launched, you'll notice console has gotten 8 insert slots. The first 4 are your record effects and the bottom 4 are your monitor effects. So make sure you're putting it in the right spot like Ben is.
Exactly. Yeah. If I were to put this up here, it would start showing up here inside of Luna, up in my record effects. So I definitely want it to be down here in the monitor effects. And so now that it's in console, I can control it. I can still control it in either application. But as you'll see, with it being here in console, the MIDI activity light is now working, and you guys are probably hearing my beautiful vocoded voice. Just like that. So that's the big trick, is using console. And this is, again, it's kind of the benefit that Luna and console are working together here. So even though we can't route MIDI to a live input right now, you can do this in console. You just build this part of the chain over in console. It still shows up over here inside of Luna. In fact, I can continue to control it from Luna. Power it back on, and you can see my MIDI activity light is still coming in, even though console is the one handling the MIDI negotiation. So yeah, that's
Nice.
that's the vocoder, man. And then of course, everything gets infinitely simpler once you if you do this after the fact, right? If you were to say already have some voice recorded, then the typical way you'd set it up would be just insert it as an effect, route the MIDI to it, and you can handle all of that inside of Luna after the fact. It's just for doing it real time that you got to do this little console trick in the background.
And then another thing that might trip you up is and this, if you read the manual, which of course everybody reads the manual, right?
Of course.
Right. If you read the manual, one of the things in the vocoder is that it's active from C3 and up.
Yeah.
So that's something that can trip people up. If you're below C3, and you'll find that nothing's happening. So it's just make sure you're also there as well.
Yep. Good call. Nice. So we got a question here from Jimmy Romero. Been a Pro Tool user for 20 years, started using Luna, and he's loving it. But his question is the tool selection going to continue the same way? Seems to slow down his editing flow. So Jimmy, I think good. First of all, great to know that you're loving it. But I think you're going to find, essentially, our contextual controls. It's essentially just like the Smart Tool inside of Pro Tools.
I'm guessing Jimmy's not a Smart Tool user. Maybe he's one of those F4, F5 kind of guys. Right?
Yeah, having to switch around. So and that's exactly the concept that we're taking with the editing controls in Luna is to eliminate the need to switch tools all the time. It's to give you all the tools that you need. You just need to kind of learn exactly how to grab the things that you want to grab. So, we'll just do this as a quick little refresher. So you'll notice my cursor, it's very similar to a Smart Tool. When you're on the top half of a clip, it's the selection tool. When you're on the bottom half of the clip, it's the move. When you're over on the bottom corner, it's the trim. When you're in the bottom or the top corner, it's a fade, which also has a shape, where you can change the angle and the shape of it. You can double click on a clip to rename it, adjust the clip parameters, and I'm sure hopefully you're catching on that a lot of the editing shortcuts are the same too. So just by placing my playhead here, and this was in last week's update, you can now press A key to trim from the front, You can press the S key to trim from the back. Of course, the fade keys D and G both work. You can select an area, hit Command T, and it trims down to that area. You can select an area, press the E key, maximize it, work on, do surgery, do whatever you need to do, and then press the E key to zoom back out. These should all feel pretty familiar. But then, of course, you're probably wondering, like, so F1, 2, 3, and 4, right? Slip, shuffle, snap, all those. So shuffle is what we are calling shift edits. And so these are, Matt showed these off in our MIDI arranging deep dive last week. We're basically all those same shortcuts you can do instead of, X or Command X to cut. You do Shift X, and that's a shuffle edit. Or shuffle cut in a way. You can do the same thing. You can do Shift D, shuffle duplicate. The B key is to separate straight up, and then to turn the grid on and off, it's just Shift backslash. Yeah, this backslash. Shift backslash turns the snap on and off, and then Shift plus and minus keys to change your grid values. And so the whole concept is it should feel familiar to you, but it should also start kind of feeling like a little bit faster, more efficient workflow in the end.
Yeah, I can sympathize with Jimmy because I wasn't really a smart tool user myself. I actually would like that left hand workflow of picking the tools. But since learning Luna and using Luna, it's just muscle memory. So just hang in there. Give it some time. Throw yourself into it. Throw yourself into it. Embrace it. That it's a new thing. It's a new way of working, and I think you'll find that you get pretty comfortable with it pretty quickly.
Totally. And Raphael's asking about the Logic secondary tool. Is there a way for you to set so hold command and your pointer becomes a fader tool? No. So yeah, same thing here. We're focusing on the single contextual control. But for to answer your question specifically, a quick way to get to adjusting the fader, or just fader automation is on this track with this track selected, minus key just by itself pulls up the automation. So you can quickly toggle between looking at the clip and looking at its automation. And then, to draw breakpoints, all you got to do is just double click to draw a point, click to move it around. If you want to just, get the pencil tool out, hold the control key, and now we're drawing. You can get really... The whole idea here is to be fast and to be efficient with it, and kind of we've taken what we think are some of the best aspects of these different workstations and brought them into the editing and control workflow of Luna.
We had David on Facebook was asking about controlling the Moog with your controller, right? Definitely, make sure it's not everything's mappable, but all the major CCs are mapped and are in the manual. So make sure you are checking that out.
Yeah, totally. And because they are, and a bunch of them are on the standard edits too. So cutoff frequency is mapped to C 74. I want to say. Matt, do you remember all the MIDI CCs off the top of your head?
Nope, not off the top of my head.
Well, geez, Matt, what do you? Let's see.
What am I good for?
I know, dude. Like I thought this is what you were supposed to. So brightness 74. I did remember it. So now let me take hopefully my die. There we go. It's still good. Hopefully with no vocoder on it. So say I record. Whoa, that's some loud noises. Apologies, people.
Coffee.
Right?
Loud noises.
Let's solo that track. There we go. And so now I can also come in here and record, just like Matt was showing, record some recorded MIDI CC data. And you can see now on that second pass of gibberish, I was moving the knob that I have mapped on my controller. I've got a knob mapped to CC74 specifically for this purpose. And you can see it recorded in that MIDI automation data using my controller. Moog, I think Ravel's also got it. Shape has a ton of MIDI CCs. So the question you may be asking is, like, can I map whatever to whatever. Not with Luna instruments yet, but they are anything that is controllable does have a MIDI CC assigned to it, and all of that information is on the knowledge base in the manuals.
Yeah, so if you have like a MIDI controller that lets you map, change the mapping of each individual knob, that's how you would do it. Go into your MIDI controller's editor and then change the CCs to match what you find in the knowledge base.
Yeah, nice. Wow, you guys are so many good questions today. This is awesome. It's like you make it a Q&A Monday. You get Q&As. I love it.
That's yeah. Imagine that.
You got the Q's, we got the A's.
Exactly. Hey guys, is there a way to use the Apollo as the main sound card in my MacBook Pro, where all the audio's going through one set of headphones when auditioning, samples and splice during the sessions? Yeah, man. So absolutely. So the key is the easiest way to switch this around is on your Mac. You just want to make sure that you have the speaker icon shown up here. But then what you can do is you can click on that speaker and select Universal Audio Thunderbolt. And now all of your system sounds, your splice sounds, everything that is playing back off your system will be routed to the same monitor outs that Luna and Console are being routed to. So yeah, that's the quick way to get to it. The other way is to go into System Preferences and then Sound and then Output, and then again just select Universal Audio Thunderbolt as your interface there.
Yeah, the third way actually to do that would be audio MIDI setup. If you wanted to route system sounds like specific channels, for example, like a pair of virtual channels, you can do that in audio MIDI setup. And then you could actually include, if you're like your example of playing back samples from Splice, you could have one headphone mix that's for the artist where they're not hearing the samples. You could have a second headphone mix that's your headphone mix where you're hearing the samples. So it gives you a little more control over it that way.
Totally, and there's a ton of people that have this configured this way, where what you do is you hit configure speakers. And instead of, right now mine are assigned to, monitor left to right, but you could just as easily, set this up to be either Q send, or a lot of people use the virtual tracks, they route it into a virtual, and then you can process audio. This is a great way to sample from YouTube. I know lots of people just use it for that, of being able to record samples from anywhere on their computer. You can route to a virtual device, set that virtual device in Luna, and now you can record tracks from anywhere on your system. So yeah, great question. Let's see, what else we got? Can we please change clip gain without having to separate? Also, I really need that shift control up down shortcut. I see what you're saying. So you're looking for being able to take this region and change the clip of just that without having to separate it. Yeah, man. This is the button. Yep, hit the feedback button. Let us know.
A new shiny one.
The feedback form got even nicer. For now we haven't implemented that yet. But if there's enough demand for it through the feedback tool, then hell yeah, being able to I know what you're thinking of, like Pro Tools. You have an automatable line for clip gain that allows you to change it throughout.
And that shortcut that allows you to just make a selection and bang on the shortcut a few times, and whatever your default value is. Yeah, it's a good workflow. Yeah, definitely ask for it.
Totally. So in the meantime, you can double click on a clip and adjust its gain. Here, and this allows you to, obviously if you double click on any value, it brings up the little dialog to be able to tell it exactly what you want. Unfortunately, there's just not a keyboard shortcut yet to do these gain adjustments. And I would +1 on that one for sure.
Yep, me too.
Right? All right, track preset features. Is there a way to copy one track set to another one? Not in V1, not yet. Again, hit the feedback tool. Let us know how much you need that one, because I would also really love to see that one.
You can option drag. You can option drag to copy plugins over, and you can use the copy. This is one thing that not a lot of people know, Ben. If you go to the mix window and do Command C, you do have the ability to copy things this way, right? A lot of people don't probably use this or know it, but it's carried over from console. But when Ben does Command C, these little green targets light up on any parameter that's copyable, let's say. And they'll time out after, I think, 5 seconds or something. So yeah. And then once you click on one of them, it loads it into a buffer, and then you can hit the apply to whatever ones that have the plus sign, like Ben's doing right now. So You can do this for sends. You can do it for plugins. You can do it for anywhere where you see those target buttons. So
Matt, do you know, is there a shortcut for remove? I know Command C does the copy one, but is there a shortcut that activates the remove modifier?
No, Command C for copy is the only modifier that has a shortcut.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But you can right click on something, and in the right click menu, you've got your remove. And if you right click at the top of the insert, you can have remove all. You also have disable all, as as well. So
well, that's sorry, that's not. Oh yeah, here it is. So right click on inserts, disable all, enable all. You can also do this just any plugin in the chain. You can also you'll get that remove all, disable all, enable all down here. So yeah, if you want to, District 7 is asking if there's a way to quickly bypass all plugins on a track. So that's what you would do. You could either click on the inserts above it, or even just on any insert in that chain and say disable all as a quick way to bypass it, and then enable all to turn back on. Nice. You guys are coming hot and heavy with all the questions today. This is great.
This is great. Yeah, it's good.
Then send the feedback, great. Audio MIDI setup, yep, use that. Of course, Danielle's got a really elegant. I'm sure she's got a really great audio MIDI setup. I know we've seen her talk a bunch about using virtual channels for samples, etc.
District 7 Studio is asking about a capture playback feature. Basically, if you were playing something but you weren't recording, if you can go back and capture what you didn't record. No, we don't have that right now, but hit that feedback button.
Mm-hmm. So I know I've benefited from having that a couple of times in Ableton, of being able to capture what I was just playing, even though I wasn't recording. That would be so cool. Import session data soon. Not entirely sure where that is on the roadmap yet, but I know it's definitely majorly on our radar. That was a big thing. Especially a lot of our pro users are asking for, to be able to do larger projects and big sessions. Having session import data is going to be key to that.
Rich is asking about comping. Luna has comping. It's a version and take system where you can create as many versions as you'd like, and then there are some nice key commands that Ben's doing the control / which is to create a new version, and then you can record as many of those as you'd like, and then from there you're just kind of using the one shortcut you'll use a lot is shift up and down, right? So if Ben does shift up and down, you'll see that he's toggling through those, and then from there it's just a matter of simple selections. C to copy, move to the playlist you want it to go to, and V to paste. So it's a really straightforward kind of a workflow. There's not a way to see all the versions yet, but we know a lot of people like the Logic swipe comping. So make sure you hit the feedback button, and we'll build it out like the majority of the users want, right?
Mm-hmm, totally. Yep. Yeah. So just let me reiterate just how useful some of these shortcuts are, because it's basically like 4 or 5 shortcuts that once for playlists, makes comping even without like a quick swipe or being able to see all the takes, you can get really quick with it. So as Drew said, control / is a new playlist. Control command / is duplicate the playlist, where it keeps whatever you have and then goes forward. We're all gonna make believe that this is a vocal track, and take 3 was kind of my favorite take. So typically my workflow is duplicate the take that you like the best, and then start your comp from there. So you're like, cool, I love this, great take. Oh, you're sounding so good. All right, this first line of the pre-chorus, wasn't really feeling that. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll select the area that let's try to find something better for here, and then go shift down. And you can see shift down is now toggling through my different versions. So I'm going back now to take 2. You can just press play, quickly audition it. Not quite it. Shift down, take 1. Okay, yeah, that's the jam. So now all you have to do is hit C, and then shift up, back to my comp, hit V, paste the right end, and you'll notice a lot of these edit commands, you don't even need to add command to them. Of course, you could use Command C and Command V, but to speed it, make your life one keystroke easier, I guess. You can do it with just C and V. So now I've comped together, from the first take there, and I keep on playing. Okay, let's fix up this line. Again, just using the shift down, select what I want, shift back up, paste it back in, just like that. So it's gonna get really easy. But there's also a lot of people who do love to see all of the takes kind of played out. And I see a lot of guys where what you'll do is you'll do a vocal track on this take, and then instead of doing versions, what they'll do is they'll duplicate the track and then just kind of bring the entire take down onto another track, which is a great workflow as well. So what you can do for that, the really handy shortcut here to know is P and semicolon. So when I go, if I cut this take off of this track and I hit semicolon twice, you can see on the left-hand side of my screen, see how I'm selecting different tracks. What I'm doing is I'm moving the playhead up and down through the track list. So I'm now on this track, I can hit, Control / to create a new playlist. Press V, and there now I've pasted my region in on this other track. So you could do this to lay out all of your different takes, and then come back in and comp. But then of course you're going to end up needing the solo stuff. So like it's not my favorite workflow doing it this way, but I know a lot of guys really do love stacking background vocals or stacking harmonies and kind of quickly, using one track to record, but multiple tracks to kind of stack them up rather than record enabling multiple tracks over and over again. Plus it helps you keep the same signal going on your main track the entire time.
Ironically, though, Luna actually, the reasons why guys like that workflow, Luna kind of does away with some of the issues that you might have with that. The fact that it remembers your signal chains per track, or you can go in console tracking mode and maintain the same track. It's actually, I think some of those engineers that worked that way, I think if once you got into Luna's workflow, you might find you change your workflow. I know Luna has opened my eyes to a lot of different things that I used to do. But anyway, yeah, just throwing that out there.
Oh, beginner question is a really good one. What's the difference between consolidate and heal on a comp? That's a really good question. So heal, all heal will do is it will bring things that, so say I had this region separated. Now, if I don't move this region, I can heal this with Command H. But as soon as I move this, and now I try to heal this, it's not going to heal because this doesn't actually go together. So all heal really is kind of an advanced undo for separated regions in a way. Whereas consolidate allows me to take different regions from different takes, different clips from different takes, select them, and then hit Option Shift 3 to be able to consolidate and now make that a new clip that's all one clip, and it's actually a single file on the drive that I can now export. So heal just repairs regions that have been separated and have not been moved, and consolidate takes any clips and flattens the edits, flattens the clip gain, flattens the fades, commits those edits essentially to a single file.
Yeah, speaking of fades, make sure you got good fades before you do it, because if you've got bad fades, they'll get baked in.
Yep.
If you have a lack of a fade, or if you have a bad fade that causes a tick, it will be in your consolidated session. So be careful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if I were to consolidate this area right now, it's consolidated with that little click right there because I didn't set a fade beforehand. So luckily Luna makes it super easy. Again, back to what we were talking about with the contextual controls. You can quickly add a fade just by clicking on that middle. You see how my cursor is making a little crossfade thing. That's how you know you're about to make a crossfade. So just click on that. If you've got snap mode on, it'll just kind of help you create a small one, and then it'll start snapping to the beat. But the other way to do this, and especially for the lazy of us out there, is select all the ones that you want to add fades to, and then just Command F. And now I've added little tiny fades to each and every one of those edit points. And this, the amount of fade there, that's actually set over here in the settings. Under options, you'll see fade length right here. So you can predetermine how long you want those to be. And it's a great way to just make sure you don't have any clicks and pops. It's a little insurance policy to make sure that, you're never consolidating or shipping something out with clicks in it. But actually, let's investigate something together. So you guys saw that was what a 10 millisecond fade looks like. Now, so I undid my fades. I put in a custom fade on this one, but now if I select this whole area and hit Command F, you'll see, yeah, it does overwrite it. So it does go back to whatever regular fade that you have, but then you can come back in here and you can, of course, adjust the bounds of these. So you're not stuck with what it does. You're not stuck with that 10 milliseconds. You can come back in after the fact and grab the handles and change where the fade in and fade out points are for the crossfade. So good beginner question to cover some good basics there.
Yeah, sure. And that's another one you don't need the command. You can just do F if you want,
Oh, nice. F. Oh, well, yeah, so I guess I just showed the third case here, right? Of like, if you only have, I kept on showing like, cool, select a bunch of clips and it'll do the short fade for you. But if you just select, over one edit, the area that you select and hit F, that now becomes the faded area.
Yeah.
Good thing. Good little bit of clarification. So yeah, there's like, what's that, like 5 different ways to do fades in like 5 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Great. Looks like we're kind of caught up on. Oh wow, I'm louder than normal. I apologize, guys. Oh, it's because my LA2A. There we go. That should be a little bit better. Probably pulled me down like 10 dB. I'm at work. Sorry. I apologize, Javier. Just scrolling through questions. Looks like we're pretty much caught up. People asking about sidechain. What's a good way of getting sidechain without having to sidechain? To me, man, it's bus compression, right? I don't know about you, Drew, but like using kick, putting your drums and your bass together and then making those two work with an SSL compressor. They're they're both pushing towards the same thing, so you're not going to get the same sort of like, I want my kick to duck my bass, but if you're putting them into the same compressor, they're both adding their energy together, and then the compressor is responding to that. Yeah. It's not that different. It's different as in like one's not getting out of the way of the other, but if you've got the balance of the two of them just right, and then they're hitting the compressor in a good way, you can get lots of punch and transient and attack from your sound with still kind of the level control and the quote unquote glue that you would typically associate with a sidechained sound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially if you set your attack right, where you can kind of let the transient of the kick through, but then clamp down on the bass. You can really get some good results there.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah! All right, well, man. So we've shown off a lot of cool tricks today. So how to hook up Vocoder, how to do some comping, how to some of the cool shortcuts and editing features. Hey everyone, what's the point of sidechaining? Yeah, sidechaining, there's other uses for it as well. There's like, ducking and, there's other ways that sidechains are useful. And so, yeah, we're very well aware how much people are wanting sidechain. It's definitely high up on that priority list. But it's also very it's a big feature. So it's going to take them a little while. But yeah, So Drew, I think you're all set up to kind of show. Last week we showed off. I made just kind of showing people a production template, how to make a template to get creative and start working more on the music, on the creation side, on the songwriting and production angle. Right. So now I think it'd be kind of fun to go to the complete opposite side of that process and talk a little bit about mastering, because I know people have kind of been asking, is there a way to master in the box or master with a hybrid approach inside of Luna? So yeah, you got a good example to be able to show that off?
Yeah, so let's just set this up real quick because first of all, one thing we understand is that not everybody might want to be switching to Luna full time. So one of the reasons why we're doing examples like this is to help people feel like how can it fit into your workflow. I'm a Wavelab user myself. I do a good chunk of my business is still mastering, but I have found that Luna for the Sonics is just a better place. It's a better place to work. So let me share my screen, and I got a session set up for us here to just to show a couple of examples. And what I've done here is I've prepped a few different kinds of scenarios. One of the things about mastering in a DAW, at least doing the sonics of it, is that one of the ways that a lot of people like to work is to simply kind of bring in their songs into, in this case, I've brought them into Luna, in a couple of different formats for a couple of different treatments. But to do them each song on its own track, or in this case, set of tracks when you're dealing with stem mastering, and then to have them be sort of stair-stepped or staggered downward. And the idea here is so that each track or each song gets its own track and its own playlist and its own automation and its own inserts and so forth. And by stagger stepping them, you never can play more than one at a time, right? So you never have that situation where you have all 10 songs playing at the same time. So it makes life a lot easier. To be able to do that. When I do this type of mastering, I actually like to master in order. So when a client sends me an album to master, one of the first things I do is I make sure that hopefully the sequence is decided upon, and then so I like to master in order so that I can basically make sonic decisions in context and hear the flow of the record and so forth. Now, of course, Luna is not a mastering program, so you're not going to be able to do, create DDP files or do any metadata or any of that kind of stuff, PQ editing. But for me, I have found that I'm using Luna a lot for the sonics because it just sounds good, and all my familiar plugins are there and so forth. And then I just export into Wavelab, and you can bump out the other the deliverables really easily. Anyway, so let's take a look at this session. This, I wanted to show example number 1, which is a stem mastering session. So maybe this is the signal flow. This is maybe a little bit easier seen in the mix window. And I actually showed this once on an earlier version, but I've made some tweaks to it, and I'm going to show a couple of different aspects of it. But this is a song where I've outputted the stems from Pro Tools, and I have a drum stem. So I've got that on its own track, and then a bass stem, and then acoustic guitars. You'll notice I have my solo mode set to XOR, which is basically
that's probably the most important tip for mastering in any box, but especially in Luna, right? Is like switching from latch to XOR will save you from the catastrophe of everything all playing back at once, like I did quickly in that MIDI example.
Yeah, so you'll know, so if I come up here to my drums and just single click and shift S, it's going to unsolo the previous one and solo the drums and so forth and so on. So this is a really quick workflow for going in and doing all of that. Yep. So I have all of these stems brought into Luna. And one of the things, one of the reasons why I'm so drawn to Luna, is like the integration of the tape. So in this particular case, this song is pretty bright, and at the mastering stage, I realized that I wanted to kind of tame that a little bit. So I'm going to use selection grouping. So if I select my first track and I shift click to select that, and and this is probably hard to see, but if you Command G turns on and off selection grouping. So with Command G on, I can do some various things like for example, on the top end, if I double click on the top end, right, these are little tweaker screws that are hard to see and hard to adjust, right?
Yeah.
So this is a really good application of selection grouping, because if I want them to be 3.1, right, if I want them to be just a little bit brighter, it's pretty much impossible to do that by adjusting, via the GUI.
Yeah.
And so double clicking there, and maybe I want to go to 2.5. So that's really handy. And of course, that applies to any one of these things, any parameter in Luna that you want to do. It will. And in the case of saturation, it's actually a reciprocal gain. It's kind of like the headroom control on the summing. So double clicking on it doesn't show you, it shows you the balance that you're doing, input versus output gain staging there. So in this case, I'm going to keep them natural. Of course, the beauty of stem mastering is that I can do something to only the drums, right? And then versus leaving the other stuff. And then I've created a stem master bus, right? So hopefully you can see that there. And that stem master bus comes over to here. And on here, I have my Neve summing. And this is another interesting thing. You'll notice I'm purposely chilling out the low impedance summing, right? I really like the tone of the low impedance summing. But I've used the headrooms adjustment to bring that way down to it's a nice way of getting in between the high impedance and the low impedance.
So so that's made it cleaner sounding, correct? Like moving the headroom to the left. Exactly. It cleans it up. And then also importantly, you've adjusted the trim. It looks like you brought that down a dB or 2. Yeah,
actually, 2.3. Yeah. So, and that's important to do to make sure that makes sure that this in out, right? This AB before and after, you don't want to fool yourself. If it's loud louder. If it's louder, you're going to think it sounds better. So always make sure you're doing your due diligence here to do a good proper A/B. So all of my stems, they get the tape, they get whatever inserts they want, and then they go in through the Neve summing. And then in this case, I've done some, I did the Chandler primarily just for its high and low pass.
Mm-hmm.
Is really all I'm doing there, plus whatever little coloration that this guy gives you, which it does. It does have a little bit of coloration. And the reason why I did that was because I'm kind of using doing the pull tech thing where I'm blowing up the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a little bit of pre-cleaning, it's a little bit of pre-cleaning of the 30 hertz so that when I do blow up the bottom end on the pull tech, I kind of fall in that sweet spot that I want to be.
Yeah.
And then of course my limiter is on here.
Mm-hmm.
And you will notice that I have arm turned off on purpose here because especially for this analog workflow, I'm going to want that off so that I can still have, if I wanted to, still have AU plugins on a track that's either record enabled or is set to input. So that's example number one. And I guess this one, I can play a little bit of it, but this is one I've already used, but I'll just play maybe 20 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a summing example there.
Mm-hmm. And so now, obviously the final step of mastering, right, is exporting. So do you have to do anything differently with the way that you set this up to be able to export this and send it to the client?
No, this one is, I have these, you'll notice that the stem master goes through its own bus, which then is fed to the mains.
Mm-hmm.
I also have, in my other two examples, I have, in the second example, I have a source track, which is the original mix, which I'm doing some processing to it. And it goes to its own dedicated bus, right? It's actually, this one is going to output line 5 and 6. And that's because I'm using a piece of analog here. I'm using an Allen Smart C2 compressor. And then it's being brought back into this capture track,
mm-hmm.
which I have set to input. And then because I still also want, the analog summing on this, I've sent it. Its third destination is a bus, right?
Yeah.
And this now gives me the ability to put the Neve summing on it, and then my limiter is on that. And so I'm going from my original source track, which allows me pre-insert processing, which in this case is tape and a little bit of dynamic EQ. Then it goes out to the compressor, and it comes back in on this track, which is post-insert processing, which in this particular case I haven't done, but I could do. It's coming back into some line inputs. Mm-hmm. So this would allow me to access the pre-insert, post-insert, and then finally the busing and the limiting. And then that goes to the main out as well.
Nice. Well, and the other cool thing that you do by doing this way too is you can, for capture, you can record, to do the exporting for this one, you're going to have to record on that capture track. But the great thing is that means that you've now captured your analog processing. And I know a few mastering engineers where, you do your first mastering pass and you really using all of the tools at your disposal, using all of your analog stuff plus the plugins, you're going for it, you're getting the sound. And then a lot of times, the little tiny tweaks that the clients ask for, you don't actually have to recall absolutely everything if you've done it this way.
Exactly.
Is you can do the tweaks to what you've already captured. You can say like, I'm 90% of the way there, but they want to do this and this and this. I can do that just processing my capture track, because especially if you're not going crazy on the limiting with that, right? If you're using the analog.
That's something I've been fortunate to, have Ted Jensen master a bunch of stuff that I've done, and I've been able to go up to New York and when they used to be there. So that was the way he worked. He would go out into his analog chain, which is where primarily EQ, and then he would capture that, because, what are clients typically asking for? Oh, make it a little louder, or make it a little softer, or do this, or, whatever. So you can, by capturing that analog chain, then you really get, the best of both worlds. Recalls are super easy. You've also future-proofed it. You never know when you're going to get rid of a piece of gear, or when a piece of gear is going to die, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So then all you'd have to do
is all about.
And again, this is part of the reason why you're not in ARM, is because you don't need it for mastering. First of all, right? There's no benefit to being in real time when you're mastering, and by being out of ARM in this case, does it do some delay compensation or anything? Or, again, I guess you don't really have to worry about that too much unless you're
Yeah.
doing the stem stuff, right?
Exactly. The main reason for doing it is because of this right here. Let's say I would have, and I didn't in this particular example, but let's say I wanted to put on an AU plugin
Mm-hmm.
post analog insert. This is, having arm off allows me to do that. I now have FabFilter on the capture track, which is on input monitor, and it allows me to be doing the master and tweaking and working on this while running through a live AU plugin. I don't care about latency. It's a mastering environment. So that would be why you would do that as well. And same with limiters,
Mm-hmm.
it allows you to, it allows you to have my favorite limiter these days is limitless, but it allows me, that's AU. So I can use that on enabled tracks or tracks that are on input.
Yeah, and also, so a question you may be asking yourself is like, so does this mean you have to kind of bounce it twice? Well, in a way, kind of yes, but again, the whole idea is to capture your analog
Yeah.
chain, capture that in here, and then after that, you don't have to bounce in real time anymore. You can actually, to do the final export of your master, can be done offline.
Yeah.
If there's not a ton of processing on it, you'll see it'll just scream by.
Yeah, and yeah, that's true. And although I will say this, I'd push back against that a little bit. Mastering's one part of the process where maybe real time is the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally, if you're the mastering engineer, then your literally job number one is quality control.
Yeah.
So what better way? The reality is if you do it faster than real time, you're gonna. If in good conscience, you'd have to listen to it start to finish anyway. Why not just do it in real time and listen to it start to finish as you go?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but.
Yeah, because clicks or pop, like you never want that call, right? Of
Yeah,
like, man, I
yeah.
just got the master, but is there a click at like 3 minutes and 12 seconds? And you're like, you always want to be able to know
Yep.
like what you deliver to the client is
Yeah,
the best
yeah.
it could possibly be.
So that's an example. The purple example here is a single source track that eventually will turn into below it, as you mentioned, Ben, the analog capture,
Mm-hmm.
and then then it's a matter of just whipping off the other ones. So that's this song right here, which actually it's nothing fancy here. It's honestly, I just brought up this thing. I did a little bit of dynamic EQ, some tape, and then the Neve summing. But ironically, I say I didn't do much, but like the irony. That's the beauty of this stuff, and that's why I'm so drawn to Luna. And this is what I don't get out of WaveLab. It's like WaveLab's a great program, but it doesn't give me this sort of like instant gratification. It doesn't put these tools at my fingertips. It doesn't. You have to work a little harder, and it's a little bit more scientific. And it's fine. It's great, but I find that for the sonics, it's just I'm drawn to this tape. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
in this last example that I have here is it's a straight plug-in master. So, this is just a pure digital plug-in master, but it's kind of slightly unique in the sense that this is probably, again, this is probably hard to see, but if I double click, you can see that my tape is only at 6, my
Mm-hmm.
repro EQ for the low frequency, whereas the default is much higher at 8.8 or higher. This is an instance where, and this is something people might not do very often, but there's times where I actually use the tape to remove low end,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like most people think of tape, oh yeah, I want to thicken it, I want to do whatever.
Yeah.
But this track was the opposite. This track had a big blown up sort of cloudy bottom end. And of course I could just shave it off with EQ, but that would be very static and it wouldn't react to the dynamics of the music. So in
Mm-hmm.
this case, I purposely pulled back the level of this to tame the bottom end. And then I also did this. This is something I do quite often as well. Not usually in mastering,
Mm-hmm.
but in mixing. The 550 just without any knobs touched.
Yeah.
If you instantiate that at the top of insert one of every track in your mix, and then you bypass all of them all at once, it's crazy the mojo and the vibe that this 550 in bypass
Yeah.
will do.
Dude, it's good. Yeah, it's the transformers, the 2520, the op amps that are it is flowing through things that are it just does something to the sound.
It's you haven't even touched the knobs, but so like that's really cool. And in this case, I did the tape and then I did the 550 just with the knobs not being touched, and it just tightened the bottom end. It focused the bottom end. So just a couple little tips that I wanted to just throw in there to kind of give you an idea what you can do with mastering. I'm finding more and more that this is like Luna is just such a great it's such a great environment sonically
Yeah.
that I'm using it for all sorts of things that I didn't think I would.
Well, let me share my screen. I've got some others. I've also got a mastering session, if you guys couldn't tell, pulled up here. But before I show a couple of things I like to do for in the box mastering, Raphael, I saw, was asking the empty plugin icon. So for AU plugins, by default, this is the default AU plugin. Check this out. He's noticing that some third party plugins are getting images, and that is, if you click on, you can create an image for any plugin that you want. So, for instance, this one right now currently doesn't have an icon. If I click on the name, open up the plugin, click on the name, you'll see at the bottom there, create plugin icon. This allows you to create custom icons for all of your AU plugins. And then from now on, they will show up with that. So, really, really easy tweak to kind of add to the visual nature of what's going on here.
Yeah, and you might have noticed, if the first time you used Luna, when you first installed Luna, it asked you to okay the use of the screen capture. And right. This is why, right? If you clicked no to that, this might not work for you. So make sure you hopefully have clicked yes or allow to that, because that's what it's using. It's using the screen.
Oh, he's saying that he's getting some automatically from Plugin Alliance. Interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, maybe they're included. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure where these files are stored, but it is essentially just a PNG file on your computer. So it is very possible, I think, for other manufacturers to put a file in there. But yeah, so this is. Let me delete this blank, which was doing nothing. My setup is very similar to Drew's in terms of. This is all in the box. So this one I'm not using any analog stuff. As you can see, I'm not even using any tape, any Neve. This is just very, very straight ahead, kind of my normal process, especially for stuff that I've mixed, where it's already, a lot of times I've had this happen in the past where I've done too much analog, where you kind of mix with the analog mindset in it, and you go to master it. If you can easily kind of overdo those colors and that saturation. So I'll typically tend to keep things a little bit cleaner. But what I like to do is, especially for a project like this is an artist, Johnny Burgos, I've been working with, and one of these songs is actually the one that we were doing the first couple of weeks of Luna. We were doing those after hours mixing sessions. We've finished that song and brought it into master. But what I like to do is I like to kind of stack a whole project together. So Drew, as you were mentioning, you keep things in sequence. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll stack them on top of each other while I'm while I'm trying to get the balance between them. So rather than having to move the playhead around all the time, what I can do is I can, you can even see by energy here, I'm stacking my choruses together. That's kind of the main thing I'm looking to do here, is put my chorus energies together, make sure that my levels from track to track are all nice and even. So these red tracks, these are my source. And then just like how Drew had it, I'm doing some processing on the source tracks themselves. This is how I'm fixing any issues or kind of getting them to all sit next to each other. I do that.
That's your per song processing, per song, right?
Exactly. Yep. So each one, my Swiss Army knife here is the BX Digital V2 for doing mid-side EQ width, just being very precise and very clean with it. I'm also using like the Alpha Master, but then as you can see, a couple of these needed a little extra love. Like this one needed a little bit of Pro Q3 just to pull out that 2.2, which for some reason I decided I didn't want to do it in here at the time. It was probably because I wanted to do it on left-right, not on a mid-side basis. You can see I'm even using like the Fairchild, coming with just a little, just tickling the Fairchild and then using the parallel process on it. So this is, the whole goal of the tracks on this side is to get them sounding next to each other and fitting really good. But then they run through a common bus. And so on this common bus, this is kind of how I help establish the sound of the record itself. So this is where, these are the elements that all of these tracks will share, which in this case was like the 2500, and an ATR 102 and a back CQ. So they all share this processing. So what I'm kind of doing, especially if you're working on multiple songs at the same time, is I'm constantly balancing between like, what needs to happen on the individual tracks and then how do I want to shape this record as a whole. And that's what's happening here on the bus track. And then on the final main track is where I put my final limiter that they're all going to share. And this could just as easily be over here on this track. Yeah, either spot is kind of cool. Like as far as there's a good reason to leave it over here rather than on here, because the other thing I like to do is, you see I have yellow tracks that are connected straight to the main outputs. So what these are my references. So these are all masters from the last record, or songs that we've decided that we want to use as our references. So again, what I can do is I can quickly, just like Drew was showing, using Shift S, I can just put my playhead down on a track, hit Shift S, and now I'm soloing that track. So I can quickly, for me, I love kind of being able to bounce back and forth, and everybody I'm sure if someone else heard my mastering process, they think I'm a crazy person with ADHD, because I'm just kind of bouncing back and forth between songs I'm working on, old songs, opening up Spotify to check out our references, pulling stuff in. Like it can be a little bit of a frenetic process sometimes to really get the balancing and getting them all working together, and then it becomes a little bit, once I feel like I'm in the ballpark, then it becomes more about little details and making sure that as a bigger picture, it all works. So it's
So hey Ben, you want to? I think I have a little trick. I have a little workflow thing you might enjoy. That might make your life a little easier. Since you have 4, one of the things I do in these situations is, if you were to take those 4 yellow tracks and mute them, and then send them each to their own queue at unity gain, and then. So if they're muted and sent one to each queue, so reference number 1, just do one.
I see.
Ref 1 to Q1, ref 2 to Q2, ref 3 to Q3.
Yeah.
And then you can use your control room sources as switchers.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So you would go there, and now down there in the bottom, you're only set up for 2 queues right now, but I always stay set up for 4. So I use the queues when mixing to punch into my reference material.
Whoa.
And then that way you never have to risk unsoloing them, or you keep them muted, and the cues are pre-fader, so you're just doing the switching at the control room source.
Drew,
smart trick.
Drew with the tip of the day right there, because that's great for mastering. It's incredible for mixing as well, because I'm constantly.
I put my reference mixes if I'm mixing. I don't want the reference material to go through the stereo bus or go through the limiter or anything like that.
Yeah.
I send them to queues, and then I use the source button as a switcher.
Drew.
Very nice.
Oh man, that beat the vocoder for tip of the day, because that is huge. That's such a cool workflow, because then you can leave multiple, and especially for mixing purposes, just leave your reference mixes down at the bottom of your session, assigned to Q1, Q2, Q3, however many queues you have set up. Yeah. And then as you notice, I don't use my queues. Like, queues are useless to me, because I'm in a mixing production room over here.
So you could set yours to 4 and have up to 4 reference tracks. And the cool thing about that is you can level match them, because they're typically the mastering stuff. The reference material is mastered, so you can use your Q sends to level match them.
The trim back a reference mix.
Trim them back. Yeah, and then when you punch through your sources, then it just becomes a quad ABCD box. At that point, the switcher.
Drew,
that's
genius, sir. Why have you been holding that one back for so long? That is so good. It didn't occur to me.
Well, honestly, I on my D command. I've been doing that for 20 years on this D command, because it has external sources. So I've been doing that a bunch, but it didn't occur to me until just seeing you do that. I was like, wait a minute, that's what I do in the reference.
That is huge. Really, that's a good one, man.
Hopefully the lunatics make sure you guys log that one.
Yeah, right.
Get that into the Google Docs.
So a question from, if you have a lot of processing, bouncing in real time, sometimes it's faster. Yeah. Again, real time bouncing is one of my favorite things of working in music, right? It's getting to listen to music and kind of that last little double check. Another A/B thing that I recently got turned on to, that some of you guys may have seen. Have you seen this plugin, Metric A/B? This is a good one to have on the main fader. Drew's trick is winning in my mind right now, but this is another feasible option for being able to load up reference files, past mixes, past masters, and be able to quickly A/B between them. It's got some pretty tricky stuff around being able to synchronize, but then it also has got some really nice metering options built into it too, to really help you know where you're landing in terms of loudness and spatial information. So
Yeah, mine's the free version of that.
oh, nice. Exactly. Yeah, this one's 50. This one was like $100 or something like that. I think I got it on sale. But yeah, the Q monitor thing allows you to get to the same. And here, let me fix my system so that I'm not even don't even have to pretend to show this off. So now I can switch between Q1, Q2. So you can see now they're lit up, they're activated. So by having this reference go to Q1, this reference to Q2, I can now switch between those and then my main. And yeah, having those pre-fader is obviously an essential part of that flow as well. Since that way I can have these muted, but these are still flowing. Nice. Man, that's super cool. So yeah, there's a bunch of different ways to do mastering in the box there. It's really cool to Drew. I really love kind of being able to share how you can integrate analog hardware into this because that is an essential part of so many people's mastering process. So yeah,
and yeah, I could do, you could go in and out as many times as you wanted, really. I mean, the conversions is so good that if you really needed to create a complex chain, what I showed was pretty, was pretty simple, just once out and once back in. Um, but yeah, and it's very realistic. It's very real world, like you said. It's like it's that source and capture vibe is how most mastering engineers work. So it's you can make it work.
Awesome. Well, killer. Well, guys, man, we've blown past our hour. We had one more thing on the docket. Matt, should we do it really fast or should we save it for next week?
Let's save it for next week.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good one.
But we'll tease what it is. So we're going to talk about backing up sessions and some different backup protocols and helpful applications and how to keep yourself organized and safe with your sessions. But then the other one, now that we've kind of shown off the production template side of things, shown off some mastering routing, and you can turn this stuff into a template in a way. You can make your mastering template to be able to have source and capture. So the tracks that Drew was showing you guys, you can easily make a session that has just those blank, ready for you to drop audio into to start a new mastering process. So for tips on how to convert a session into a template, check out last week's episode where we talked about that for production purposes. But we also got on our list to tackle is a mixing template sort of workflow. So showing you guys some ideas about how to build a template and some of the different strategies for building templates for yourself and how to use those on mixes. So we'll kick into that. We'll definitely touch on backing up sessions. Saw a lot of people still asking about analog summing and the sidechain thing. Someone was asking if we could show an example of like kick and bass and like how to get them to work together without sidechaining. So we can definitely throw that in for next week's show as well to give you guys some ideas of how to still get that sort of sound without having sidechain functionality.
Yeah.
Great. Well, guys, thank you so much, both of you. Thank you for hanging out and sharing knowledge and tips as always, and thank you everybody for tuning in and hanging out with us, asking such good questions. Make these shows just fly by because you guys are just nonstop with the good questions and stuff.
It's great when people are asking questions and it triggers things and it turns into a really cool interactive thing. And I know you guys agree that it's like prepping for these and coming up with this stuff is like it's fun and it's challenging and it's great. So totally. I thank everybody for watching.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we'll be back. Fab is on vacation this week, so we don't have a Tales from the Switch tomorrow. But on Wednesday this week, we do have Marco Polo with Master Ace in the studio, making a beat, mixing up some hip hop, and kind of showing you guys his workflow using the MPC and Luna all together. So tune back in Wednesday morning for that super special session. I'm really looking forward to that one. It's gonna be fun to kind of learn about his process a little bit more, but most importantly, just make some cool music. So yeah, tune back in Wednesday at 10. And everybody have a fantastic rest of your Monday, and we'll see you back here next time. Peace.
See you, everybody.